Hello and welcome to the Naked Expat channel. Today I'd like to talk about why priests in the Philippines sprinkled holy water over my motorcycle. Even after years of living in the Philippines, you learn that there are still beautiful traditions waiting to surprise you. My friends and I, a group of local motorcycle riders, set out for what I thought was a straightforward pilgrimage. A journey to find a little peace and fresh perspective. We were headed to a famous church and I was ready for quiet moments of prayer. What I was not ready for, despite all of my time here, was finding myself steering my own motorcycle into a long, patient line of cars, all waiting for what looked like sacred drive-thru. My Filipino friend knew exactly what was happening, but I had never imagined my bike would get its own holy water blessing from a priest. And I certainly didn't expect it to be one of the most moving moments I've ever experienced in the Philippines. This is a story of that uniquely Filipino tradition, a practice that says so much about faith, hope, and the need for a little protection in daily life. Stick with me because this story took a turn I never saw coming, and it's one that I must share with you. Every journey starts with a reason, right? For me, that reason was a single word, Manaoag. For years, I'd heard my Filipino friends say that name with quiet reverence. They didn't talk about it like it was just a church. They described it as a destination for the soul, a place of miracles. They called it a pilgrimage site. And that word pilgrimage just felt different. It implies a journey with real intention. A pilgrimage is a trip you take to a sacred place to ask for a little help from above or just to feel closer to God. It's a tradition as old as faith itself. I was at a point in my life where that kind of search felt, well, necessary. It wasn't some big crisis, just a quiet build-up of life's questions. I wanted to unplug from all of the noise and reconnect with a sense of wonder. I felt a pull towards places where faith isn't just a quiet internal thing, but something vibrant, visible, and woven right into the fabric of a community. I knew this part of the country was a place like that. And Manaoag, I was told, was its beating heart. My friends told me stories of answered prayers, of a deep peace that washed over them the second they stepped onto the church grounds. They told me about people from all walks of life making the trip to say thank you and ask for healing or to seek guidance. They said it was a place for the sick and a protector for the helpless. This wasn't about spectacle, it was about a deep personal connection. So with those stories in my head, I decided to go. My quest was simple. See this devotion for myself, spend some time in a place soaked in centuries of hope, and maybe find a little of that peace for myself. I got my gear ready, joined my riding group, and at 6 in the morning, we pointed our bikes north, ready for a spiritual journey, though I had no idea it was about to get charmingly practical. The ride from Clark, near the bustling energy of Angeles City, to the province of Pangasinan is a study in changing landscapes. It's about 120 kilometres north, a trip that can take around 2 hours, or a little bit less if you're a bit excited with your right hand. As the city vibes of Angeles start to thin out, the journey opens up onto the smooth expressway before giving way to huge open skies and green fields. The air itself feels different. The city's busyness melts away into the steadied, unhurried rhythm of the provinces. You see farmers in their fields, kids playing by the roadside, and the ever-present carabao, the water buffalo, leisurely wading through the mud. This is a part of the country I love the most. Northern Luzon gives me that feeling of moving not just through space, but through different ways of life. My destination, the town of Manaoag, is what you'd call a pilgrimage town. Its entire identity is built around the church at its heart, the minor basilica of Our Lady of the Most Holy Rosary of Manaoag. This isn't just some local parish, it's one of the most important religious sites in the whole country, a major shrine run by the Dominican order. The ride itself feels like a warm-up. The closer you get, the more you see the signs of its importance. Buses, cars and other groups of motorcycles all heading in the same direction, filled with families, couples and friends who all share the same purpose. You can feel the history of this place long before you even arrive. The devotion here goes all the way back to the early 1600s. As the story goes, a local farmer saw an apparition of the Virgin Mary, who appeared in a tree, glowing from a heavenly light, and asked for a church to be built on that very spot. From that moment on, the site was sacred. The Augustinians put up the first small chapel around 1600, but the Dominicans took over the mission in 1605 and eventually built the shrine we see today on a hilltop, protecting the image that would become the focus of so much faith. For over 400 years, people have been making the same journey, driven by their beliefs and the countless stories of miracles. As I rode, I thought about those centuries of footsteps and prayers whispered on the wind. I was just one more traveller on a very well-worn path, heading towards a place they call the Pilgrim Centre of the North. When you finally arrive in Manaoag, the first thing that hits you is the sheer scale of it all and the energy of the crowds. The church isn't just tucked away on some quiet street. It commands the town from its spot on a hill. Its full name is a beautiful mouthful: the Manaoag Basilica of Our Lady of the Most Holy Rosary of Manaoag. Even on a regular weekday, the place is buzzing. Families are streaming towards the entrance, vendors are selling colourful candles and religious souvenirs, and the air is a mix of reverent quiet and bustling activity. The church itself is magnificent, a true monument to centuries of faith. But as our group was looking for a place to park, my friends steered us towards something that just stopped me in my tracks. Off to the side of the main church, in a huge dedicated area, was a long line of vehicles. Not parked, but queued up as if waiting for service. There were brand new SUVs, some with their ribbons still on, next to old family cars that had clearly seen a lot of miles. There were commercial trucks and plenty of motorcycles. People were standing by their vehicles, some chatting, others praying. My friends just smiled at my confusion. "Of course," one of them said, "we're getting our bikes blessed." And I'm like, what? It was a drive-thru, but not for burgers or coffee. It was a drive-thru for blessings. This was an unexpected turn. I'd come to see a historic church, but had stumbled upon a living tradition that shows exactly how faith is woven into the nuts and bolts of Filipino life. This wasn't just about blessing your soul, it was about blessing the tools of your trade, the vehicle that gets you safely from point A to point B. It's a common practice to have new things, like a house or a car, blessed by a priest. It's a way of asking for protection and celebrating success. The moment I understood, I knew our pilgrimage had to include this. We parked our bikes to go and explore the sanctuary first, but that image of the queue, that uniquely Filipino expression of faith, stuck with me. I came looking for a spiritual experience, and I found it waiting for me in a parking lot. Before we got our bikes in line, I really wanted to understand the heart of this place. As you walk towards the basilica, you can feel the history. Pilgrims have been climbing this hill since the 1600s, all drawn to the same scope and hope. The first chapel was founded by Augustinians, but it was the Dominicans who took over in 1605 and built the grand church on this hilltop. Stepping inside is just breathtaking. The air is cool and smells of old wood, incense and history. Light filters through stained glass windows and your eyes are immediately pulled towards the high altar where the famous image of Our Lady of Manaoag is enshrined. The statue is a 17th century masterpiece of ivory and silver. For the faithful, her devotion has been so profound that the image was granted a canonical coronation in 1926. A formal recognition from the Pope of its great significance. What makes this place even more special are the stories of its resilience. The large murals on the walls aren't just decorations, they're chronicles of miracles. The church survived fires during the Philippine Revolution and, most famously, a bombing during World War II. People will tell you the story of how a bomb fell through the roof over the sanctuary, but miraculously it never went off, a sign of divine protection for many. It's very similar to the story of the Mosta Dome in Malta, where a similar thing happened. Coincidence? The church's spiritual importance has been recognised again and again. In 2011, it was granted a special bond of spiritual affinity with the Papal Basilica of St. Mary Major in Rome, allowing pilgrims here to receive special indulgences just as if they were in Rome. Then, in 2014, Pope Francis officially elevated the shrine to the status of a minor basilica, an honour reserved for churches of special historical and spiritual importance. After Mass, many pilgrims, myself included, join a line that leads to a room right behind the main altar. This is where you can get close to the image, say a quiet prayer, and even touch the back of her mantle. It's a deeply personal moment. Standing there, I could feel the collective weight of 4 centuries of hope and gratitude. It was the perfect preparation for the blessing that was still waiting for us outside. I also stopped by the candle gallery, where you can light different coloured candles, each one for a specific prayer, for health, family, or guidance. With a much deeper appreciation for the place, my friends and I walked back outside to where our motorcycles were parked. As we stood there, a priest came over to us with his warm, gentle smile. The whole atmosphere was just calm and expectant. He greeted us and we chatted for a moment before he began his blessing. He was carrying an aspergillum, that's the formal name for the little sprinkler for holy water. He murmured prayers and then, with a few flicks of his wrist, he sprinkled holy water over both us and our motorcycles. The tiny droplets felt like a cool mist as they landed on our arms and on our bikes, across the handlebars, the fuel tank and the seat. He made the sign of the cross, said a final prayer for safe travels and then moved on. The whole thing took maybe a minute, but the feeling it left was very profound. And in that moment I got it. Blessing a vehicle is this beautiful expression of faith that doesn't draw a line between the sacred and the everyday. It's a recognition that you need protection, not just for your soul in the next life, but your body on a journey in this life. For so many Filipinos, having a vehicle blessed is a huge deal. It's a way of saying that the good things you have, like a car or a motorcycle, come from God. And so you offer it back in a way, asking for it to be protected. It's a prayer against accidents, against breakdowns, against any harm that might happen on the road. It's about transforming a machine and its rider into a kind of rolling sanctuary. As I watched the priest move down the line, blessing a dusty old work truck, with the same care he gave a brand new luxury car and a gleaming new sports bike, I saw a faith that was practical, accessible and deeply human. It was a prayer set on wheels. After the blessing, our group pulled over to just sit for a minute and let it all sink in. The drops of holy water were already drying on my bike's gauges, but the feeling lingered. It was a sense of peace, of being looked after. Experiencing that was more than just learning about a quirky custom. It was like getting a clearer window into the Filipino soul, even after all of this time. This is what makes living in the Philippines so special. Faith isn't just about a private thing you do for an hour on a Sunday. It's vibrant, it's public, and it's part of the culture. You see it in the little altars in homes and in shops, the rosaries hanging from rear view mirrors or wrapped around a motorcycle's handlebars, and in this amazing tradition of blessing vehicles. It shows a worldview where the spiritual and the maternal aren't in conflict. They're woven together. A vehicle, whether a car or a motorcycle, isn't just metal and plastic. It's the thing that carries you, your family, or your livelihood. So of course, it's worth a prayer. It's a perfect example of what some call folk Catholicism, this mix of official church teachings and local traditions that make faith so personal and relatable. It's a way of taking a huge abstract idea like divine protection and making it real, something you can actually feel as holy water sprinkles your gauges. It's an act of hope. It's also a practical step, right up there with checking your tyres. I finally understood what my friends already knew. This blessing was a prayer for success and a cherished tradition, giving you a powerful sense of peace before you head out on the road. It doesn't mean you ride recklessly, it's a reminder to be careful, but do it with a heart full of faith instead of fear. The ride back from Manaoag felt different. It was early afternoon when we left at around 2 p.m. with the sun high in the sky. The landscape was just a backdrop on the way, but it felt like part of the memory. There was a quiet stillness on my bike, a calm that wasn't there before. Maybe it was just a good feeling you get after a day of discovery, or maybe it was something more. Riding down the highway, surrounded by all the other cars, trucks and bikes, I felt this odd sense of connection. I wondered how many of them had also stopped off in Manaoag. How many of their vehicles were also carrying the same quiet, invisible blessing. The journey home just felt lighter. The usual stress of a long ride seemed to have melted away. It felt less like a chore and more like a gentle cruise. This, I realised, was the real point of the blessing. It wasn't some magic shield, but a spiritual balm for the traveller. It was a prayer for peace of mind, a tangible reminder to trust in something that's bigger than yourself. The memory of that priest's smile and the cool spray of holy water stuck with me. It was such a simple act, but it had turned my own motorcycle into something more. As I continue my life here in the Philippines, every time I start the engine, I feel this little wave of gratitude. I left Manaoag with a blessed motorcycle, but more importantly, with a lighter heart and deeper appreciation for how faith shows up in the world. I learned that sometimes the road home is the most sacred part of the pilgrimage. So, that's how I ended up with holy water all over my motorcycle in the Philippines. It was a beautiful, unexpected and genuinely moving experience that taught me so much about the culture I call home. It was a powerful reminder that the most profound spiritual moments don't always happen in silent cathedrals. Sometimes they happen in a cheerful, patient line in a parking lot. This trip was definitely one for the books, and it's these kinds of moments that make expat life so rewarding. It makes me wonder, what are the most unique or beautiful traditions that you've seen on your travels? Have you ever had an experience that completely surprised you and gave you a deeper look into another culture? I'd honestly love to hear your stories, so please share them in the comments below. Thanks for coming along on this little pilgrimage with me. If you found this story interesting and want to see more adventures that stray from the beaten path, please consider liking and subscribing and watching my other videos, because it really does help. Also hit the notification bell so that you get to know of my other videos as and when I upload them. It really helps, and I've got plenty more to share. Until next time, safe travels, and may all of your journeys be blessed. Enjoy.